Hello, everyone. This is going to be episode 19.5 because we have some news for you. We are changing the name of the show and now what has become a podcast. We were formerly known as Learning Outside the Lines, but we found out that someone else had been using that as their podcast title. And the owner very politely had reached out and asked if we would consider changing it because they're building their own kind of network and everything. And of course, we're doing this out of a passion to share other people's perspectives. I don't expect to make a dime off of this at any point in my life. I don't know about you, Glenn.
No, and we're also just trying not to go crazy right now. So yeah, it was nice the way they reached out, but so this is a special episode that we're just sharing with you. There's no interview with this one today, but we just want to share kind of our rebrand and what you can expect from us going forward. So we are now RELearned. RE:LEARNED. RELearned. I get it.
Yep.
I get it.
Yep.
Very creative.
Yep. We won't go into detail, but that took a lot of back and forth, upside down and sideways, and of course checking as much of the internet as we could to make sure we weren't going to make anybody upset by choosing that. So I think we're okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Normally, of course, we would share our anecdotes and we'd go into a teaching hack and we would spend time interviewing someone great. And we're still going to do that in the upcoming episodes. But right now, we just wanted to kind of share with you kind of what's new and talk a little bit about Teacher Appreciation Week. So,
yes.
Glenn, can you kind of share what the rebrand looks like what they can see when they go to the YouTube channel or what they can look out for?
Most definitely. So this is what we look like now, RELearned, still offering uplifting anecdotes, digital teaching hacks, and special guests for you guys. So our episodes will now have a little bit of this branding, very similar, just a slightly different name.
Yeah.
And please check us out. Go to our YouTube channel, check out some of the past episodes, see what looks interesting. That's what's great about this. If you're a counselor or a teacher, no matter what level you're at as far as teaching goes, or even if you're a math teacher or a science teacher, we've had a multitude of perspectives. So there's going to be ones that are close to your wheelhouse, and then also ones that are, different. And that's cool too.
Yeah. We've got several that are coming up we've got in the hopper for you that I think you'll be excited about. We're going to be interviewing folks that teach in the middle school ranks, teachers that are teaching on the West Coast, folks who are working at the post-secondary level, but outside of the typical university realm, which I think will be cool.
Even a student, more Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, that's a great preview. Yeah, that's coming up as well. But we also, just to kind of give you some insight, and Glenn had asked me a really good question about hey, when you think RELearned, what do you think? And then I wrote my little thought on that. And so I'll share that with you as kind of a way maybe to understand why we picked the name. So I wrote down education when it is good, meaningful, and attuned to culture is flexible and nimble, which means educators have to be willing and able to reflect and relearn regularly. We're going to interview various folks from around the edusphere and get their reflections on the current and future state of modern education. So we still think the mission is about the same, but it's a little bit more fine-tuned to that perspective of we are constantly reflecting, we're constantly relearning and reevaluating what we know, what we think we know. And I think when we're great educators, we're doing that work both purposefully and over time, even naturally.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, it's a reply to learning.
Yes. Yep, there you go. Hence the RE:Learned. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
So we also just wanted to spend a little bit of time because this is Teacher Appreciation Week. I think there's a lot of really cool online efforts to show that appreciation. I think some students appreciate teachers more than others right now, but there's a lot of stress to be had, right?
I've got several emails just from parents this week. I can't imagine what it's got to feel like to be a parent of a high school or an elementary kid right now, or several, right? This has been one of the most stressful times, I think, in recent educational history here in America. So I mean, the lift that parents are having to do as well as teachers, but I think it's given everyone a new perspective. So the National Education Association actually put this out, NEA.
Christmas. I love school and I miss you.
She's a good teacher?
Mm-hmm.
Is mommy a better teacher?
No.
Rude.
I would say it's been surreal.
Sometimes it's mayhem and sometimes it's pure joy. A bit of a roller coaster.
It seemed like an easy transition at the beginning, but then it was just kind of like, okay, the reality set in and it just got crazy from there.
So yeah, it's a really fantastic video. Definitely check it out. NEA, it's a really nice nod. What I like is not just nodding at teachers, it's also kind of nodding at parents too. And I think more than ever, we're feeling that relationship, which is an important thing for us to reflect on. You know, that connection between families and teachers. And I think another positive, right, is we've been forced to really focus on that relationship more than ever.
Yeah. There is an article that Edutopia released, and I was originally going to save this, but I think that because we're talking about teacher appreciation, it's worth bringing up now. So I'll share this little nugget with everybody too. And if you don't typically use Edutopia, I got to tell you, you got to start spending time with Edutopia. They just have really great uplifting articles, and all their articles are to the point, and they give you really bite-sized things to consume as a teacher, educator. But this was on my radar before, like I'm subscribed to their newsletter, so I get these anyway. But I had well, actually, if you remember Morgan's episode, when she joined us, a UGA student currently, she was in my class when she was a freshman in high school, and her mom had actually messaged this to me and a couple of her other teachers and said, I just want you to know that you fit this description. Which was very
wow.
sweet. Her mom is actually a teacher too, and so I shot right back. I was like, I'm pretty sure you fit this description too, but thank you. So this hit my radar, you know, and one of the things that I think is worth pointing out here in these 6 traits, things that stand out, the first part about making students feel safe. I know that there's a lot of political heeing and hawing about, you know, people being snowflakes and safe spaces and all this other stuff that people get wound up about, but I don't really care where you fit in terms of what you think people deserve or don't deserve or how fair or unfair the world is. As teachers, if we can't create a safe space to learn, they won't.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. Glenn, I've had conversations with you about your own education and how there were spaces you didn't feel particularly, you know, desired, needed, or safe for that matter. So why learn?
Oh, yeah.
And the research is there, you know, as it kind of points out. This is the other thing I also love about Edutopia is they always bring in the research links and allow you to go to where some of the source material is.
That's
so,
cool.
You know, don't take their word for it. Go find where they're kind of referring to it. But kicking back to this, they also talk about life-changing teachers possess a contagious passion. Glenn, this is something that I know you do, watching your class, but also how you've been able to do it virtually, right? You haven't let your passion in front of your students when you're recording and stuff ever find its way down, and your students are appreciating that whether they ever tell you or not. And I imagine some of them are telling you that. Modeling patience.
Important.
You know, this one's tough for me. I don't always model patience very well in my own household, you know. But this is something I had to work really hard on. There was a time in my teaching career, 3 or 4 years in, where I had to get called out on it. You know, I had a student be like, I don't want to come talk to you because I feel like you're just going to yell at me or get mad at me because I wasn't listening, you know, or I didn't hear your instructions. But that was so important for me to hear as a teacher because I took for granted the student experience and I made it about me. And that really was a catalyst that changed that. And so I apologize to my students who had me in years, you know, like 1 through 3. But from then on, I do feel like that's part of what I tried to model. My favorite compliment I ever got in probably like year 5 is I kind of revealed to my students, like, yeah, I wasn't always a very patient teacher. You know, I could be mean. And they were like, you? No.
What? Yeah.
You know, and that's how I knew that I had really changed my behavior as a teacher. You know, the fact that they couldn't fathom me being angry or mean or lack patience, right? Knowing when to be tough. And this one is the hardest one, because if you're a compassionate, bleeding heart teacher, like I know I can be, and I know Glenn can be, the moments when you've got to be tough are the hardest to always recognize. Notice it says in here that toughness is not about, again, getting mad or upset at the kid. It's about expecting more of them. It's that calm, like, hey man, I know you can do better.
I'm here to support you. Yeah, exactly. No, I had to email a parent back today. They reached out. They were really worried about, you know, a recent grade that got put in. And they were like, how can we be doing this during these really difficult times? Like, their grades shouldn't be going down. And I'm like, well, while I understand what you're saying, I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm also trying to provide the best level of education I can for your kid while also trying to support them. So it's a tough line. Like, you know, just let me know what I can do to help. Here's some resources. I'm like, I invite more of a conversation, but yeah, it's hard. It's not about being mean. It's about those higher standards, because we love them, that accountability, you know, needs to be there. It's tough, but also knowing when to have it really be about them too. That is the toughest piece.
Well, and I think that's why you get the next part here where it says, you know, these teachers also believe in their students and help them believe in themselves. You can be tough on a student when they know that you care, and they know that when you say, I believe you can do this, you really mean it, and they know you really mean it.
Yes.
But that takes time to build some of those bridges. You know, there are kids that come in with a lot of trauma on their backs, especially if you're a high school teacher. They've got a whole set of years of schooling behind them where their trauma is going into your classroom. So being able to build that within them sometimes is a big uphill battle, but I agree. Life-changing teachers do this work. And then I think finally here, life-changing teachers love their students, you know? I used to tell my students when they would exit the classroom, it's like, I love you. And they kind of looked at me like I was a weirdo at the beginning of the year. But, you know, by the end of the year and stuff, some of them would say like, hey, I love you too. Some of them never came around to that, which is fine. But I wanted them to know every day that, like, you know, I love the fact that you get to be in my class and we share this experience together.
It's cool. It's the best job in the world. I'm a little biased.
Yep, the highest highs and sometimes the lowest lows, but the highest highs really kind of kick the lows out of orbit, you know.
Oh, definitely.
So we don't want to take any more of your time. Like I said, this is meant to be a pretty short episode to talk about how we are now relearned. We wanted to talk about how much we appreciate teachers. So again, hearts appreciate all teachers. Everybody supporting teachers, the parents who have learned some lessons about how valuable the teachers are, continue to let them know, you know, I mean, send that email, send that letter. Kids, if there's any students that watch this, again, tell your teachers that you really appreciate what they've done. You know, this is recorded, so I guess I can't take it back, but if you're also a student who watches this and you know there's a teacher out there that needs to hear that they need to be cared for, or they need to hear that from a teacher. Sometimes that's what it takes a teacher to hear for them to change who they are, because that's what it took for me.
Yeah. Tough, but yeah, very true.
All right.
Cool stuff.
Well, you can catch me online at the Prof Jones.
I'm at gchant668.
And we look forward to sharing our new episodes rebranded as Relearned. We'll catch you again next time. Stay safe and healthy.